And it will be on YouTube under A Night Before Christmas. Well, Bergen Park Church, A Night Before Christmas. So, all right. Without further ado, here's Catherine.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. There's nothing like a party, and I love that I get invited to other people's parties, so thank you for that. I love Christmas, love parties, and I love Colorado. I'm sure you guys hear this all the time, but I live in Chicago, where it is just as cold, but very flat. So I have been just spellbound since my plane landed, just taking it all in. It's so beautiful. It's like I said to my host, man, Colorado knows how to do Christmas right. You've got the trees everywhere, you've got the snow, it's just everything is perfect. Well, welcome tonight. I hope you are comfortable and you have what you need, because we're going to dig in. But first I want us to have a little bit of fun. It's Christmas. Can you believe this? I know we say it every year, but where has the time gone? It's December 1st. And I have some questions for you. If we're going to spend this evening together, we need to get to know each other a little bit. What I need to know is, are you plan-ahead people or are you last-minute people? Who has put their tree up already? That's a lot of hands. I'm impressed. Who has finished their Christmas shopping? Oh! You guys, high five for sure. All right, here's my next question. Who hasn't even started their Christmas shopping? All right, I feel you. Who is going out of town for Christmas so they don't have to do any of that stuff? Yeah? Well, you still have to shop. My family is going out of town for Christmas. We don't normally. The kids love to wake up, on Christmas morning and have grandparents come to us. But this year we're making an exception and we are traveling, and so we are in a negotiation. Are we going to still get a tree? Are we still going to put up the lights? So we'll see how the negotiation has progressed while I've been gone. But before I start panicking about all the Christmas prep that is to come and making you panic, we should remind ourselves, it's not really Christmas yet, right? It's December 1st, the very first day of December. We've still got time. In fact, Thanksgiving was just last week. Do you realize that? 1 week ago today, exactly. We were sitting around the table, eating turkey. But even before Thanksgiving, everywhere I looked, it was Christmas. I was at Costco the day before Thanksgiving to get the last-minute cranberries and whatever it is that we needed. And that my cashier asked me if I needed a Christmas wreath. And I was like, one holiday at a time, please. I will be back tomorrow for the wreath. But, today I'm just taking the cranberries. And sure enough, here we are. 7 days later, there's still turkey leftovers in the fridge, but our trees are up, the lights are up, and we're at a Christmas party. So Christmas is here, but it's not here yet. And that's what I love about the idea of a night before Christmas. There is so much to come in the months ahead, but we're not there yet. So let's just take a moment before it gets crazy, before our to-do lists just absolutely destroy us. Let's take a breath, and let's just be together. Take a breath. A few years ago, we took our family to Disneyland for the first time, probably the last time, but at least it was the first time. We aren't really expensive theme park people, so I didn't have high hopes. I think I can confess this to you Colorado folks. My family is more of a camping in the national parks sort of a family. Yeah. But Disneyland blew us away. It really was a magical place, and it was a magical time of year because it was December. I will never forget the look of pure joy on my 7-year-old daughter's face as she took it all in, and even my teenage boy was not totally unconvinced. What struck me most, though, about the Disney magic was how every single thing was perfect. Every light worked, every piece of choreography was on point, every face had a smile, every surface was clean, even the streets were clean. Everything was magically clean. Now, my husband has this weird habit. Anytime we're at a theme park or a zoo or even the mall, he's probably got a pretzel in his hand or a smoothie. And if we need to go in on a ride or into an exhibit or even into the bathroom, he can't take his snacks with him. So he'll just find something and he'll hide it underneath, in the planter, in the plant. I find this to be appalling. Then when he gets off of the ride or out of the exhibit or out of the bathroom, he just takes it out of the plant and goes back to snacking. I find it horrifying. But it always works. I always say, we just paid a lot of money for that sandwich. Don't leave it there while you go and see the snake and reptile house. Just finish it. But he always leaves it, and it's always still there. Not edible, I would say, but it is still there. Except at Disneyland. And this is my proof that it really is magic. He would hide it under a skirt or in a planter, deep in a plant, and when we would come back, it would be gone. So that is why I'm convinced that Disney is truly magic. Because nothing can clean itself that well. This year, as we are preparing for Christmas, and every year as we prepare for Christmas, it strikes me that I want my family's Christmas celebration and decorations and traditions to be just as flawless and magical and joyful and pure as the ones at Disneyland. But there is a big flaw in my plan. What makes Disneyland so magical is actually a huge budget and a lot of employees. And I am not magical, and I don't have a budget, and I am fresh out of employees. So it doesn't become magical. It becomes wonderful. There's joy, there's love, but it is very normal. I am here not as a Christmas fairy, but as an incredibly normal person. A while back, my friends and I were amusing ourselves by sharing stories of Christmas magic that had gone not just a little bit wrong, but incredibly wrong. I was surprised by how many of my friends had stories of Christmas trees falling over. I just want to warn you, most of us had stories of Christmas trees falling over, so you might want to tie those trees to the wall. My kids are mostly big now, but when my daughter was just a tiny little 9-month-old, she did pull our entire tree down on top of herself. I was upstairs doing something, and I hear this incredible crash. Of course, I ran downstairs. I found my tiny baby daughter surrounded by tree branches and broken ornaments. She was fine. She was totally fine, and that's what matters. But nothing else was fine. It was a Christmas carnage. That was almost 10 years ago, but now every time we decorate the tree, I'm like, oh, the bell that broke. Oh, the nativity scene that got smashed. One of my friends told her daughter that Santa was real and, in fact, had lived a long time ago and was the historical man of St. Nicholas. She told her the entire story and felt that she was really winning as a parent. But she realized her mistake the next morning when she dropped her daughter off for the preschool Christmas party. And her daughter ran into the room shouting, "He's dead! Santa Claus is dead!" Another friend of mine shared about the days she spent baking Christmas cookies. She baked cookies all day long, and to cool them, she set them outside in boxes, and she was going to wrap them up nicely and deliver them to the neighbors. Well, I think we all see where this is going. When she went outside to collect how many hours worth of labor, she found that the squirrels had already enjoyed it. So Christmas magic. It takes a lot of work and a lot of preparation and planning, and it isn't actually magic. unless you are magical. It's possible that you are. Tonight, this evening, you don't have to prepare anything. I know there have been some magical ladies working up till tonight, but for the rest of you, and even for those of you who are so tired right now, I hope that you can take a break and take a breath. Tonight, I am not going to tell you that you should be more, or that you should do more, or that you should be more magical than you already are. Tonight, I'm going to invite you to rest. This evening is our gift to you. And in fact, I want to be very clear about this, so I'm going to ask you to do something for me. I'd like you to hold your hands like this in front of you. I realize you're probably holding plates of food. Do your best. Do what you can. Close your eyes for a minute and think about whatever burdens you brought in here with you tonight. I know you did. Maybe a few of you are having the best day ever, but most of us are worried about something. Or we just got some bad news. Or we're worried about getting some bad news. Or we've just been carrying something for so long and it's heavy. And whether it's something huge like a diagnosis, or something relatively small like a to-do list that we just didn't get through today, I want you to pile it all on here, okay? Do you guys feel it in your hands? Don't hold anything back. Put it all right here. And now open your eyes and watch me. I want you to do this with your hands. I want you to do this. And what just happened? They all fell, right? You're not holding them anymore. They're on the ground. And throughout the evening, you are going to be tempted to reach down, pick them up. They're going to be calling out to you, but just leave them there, okay? I know our problems aren't going to go away, but at least for the next 20 or 30 minutes, just let them rest on the floor. Because we're in God's presence right now, and we're together with each other, and it's okay for us to take a breath. It's okay to take a break, and that's why we're here. Let's talk about how dark and cold it is outside. You're in a different time zone than I am, but when we got here at 6 o'clock, it was already pitch dark. It could have been 2 o'clock in the morning. Ever since we set our clocks back in November, every year when we set our clocks back in November, the darkness feels tangible and heavy to me. I don't know what it's like for you. I know a lot of people struggle with the darkness and the weather, the cold. I end up feeling encompassed by darkness, smothered by darkness. When I walk outside in the afternoon or the evening, the darkness feels thick all around me, and it lasts for hours. These days by 4:30, I'm just ready to throw in the towel on the whole day, make some tea, take a bath, put on my pajamas. And it isn't a coincidence that we celebrate Christmas during these darkest days of December. Christmas isn't really about Santa and snowmen, right? It's really Jesus having a birthday. But the thing is, Jesus probably wasn't actually born in December. Historians and Bible scholars don't know what day Jesus was born. That wasn't kept for us. But there's reasons to think in the story where the shepherds were, where the stars were, to think that it wasn't in wintertime at all. But for centuries, followers of Jesus have celebrated his birth in December on purpose. They chose this date, this week, in part because it's the very darkest time of the entire year. But also, it's the moment when the light begins to overcome the darkness. As the days of December pass, each one gets shorter and each night gets longer. But then, on December 21st, on the very darkest day, the very longest night, something changes. All those cold, dark days of January are still ahead of us, but the change that matters has already taken place, and it can't be undone. We won't see the impact for weeks, but on December 21st, light comes back into the world. The darkness does not win. So what better time is there to celebrate Christmas? What better time is there to celebrate that God came to us? Let's be honest for a minute. The world can feel covered in darkness, can it? Not just the physical darkness outside, it's in us as well. It's in our lives and our families. We've been having fun here tonight, laughing and talking and enjoying the party, enjoying being together. But there is real pain in our lives, right? Leave it on the floor, don't pick it up, but it's there. I don't know about you, but 2022 has been a hard one for my family. It's been really hard, actually. Last February, I had a sudden and strange and severe relapse of an old illness that came rushing back out of nowhere, and it has taken me the entire year to try to pull out of that. I know a lot of you know what that's like. In April, my dearest aunt died unexpectedly from complications of COVID. She was only 70 years old, and she wasn't even in the hospital. She just got up one morning, went to the restroom, and passed away right there in the bathroom. This past Thanksgiving was the first big holiday, 1 week ago today, without her. And she was the one who always hosted the whole family. She was the one who cooked and planned the games and made the name cards and bought the gifts for everybody. And as our families gathered, we tried to be thankful, but we kept bursting into tears. We burst into tears over and over and over again. And I'm very close to doing it again right now. These are just two of the things in my year that have been challenging, that have brought darkness. And I don't know you, but I know that all of you have things very, very similar to this in your own life, your own pile of burdens lying on the floor in front of you. During Christmas, we talk and we sing and we decorate about joy and hope and peace, but our real life is often so full of pain. We are suffering often, and it feels like darkness. I don't know the specific ways that darkness has touched your life this year, but I know that it has. Maybe, like me, you've lost loved ones, people that you can't imagine living without. Maybe you are fighting a terrible illness. Maybe your relationships are tense and unraveling. Maybe things are troublesome with your children or with your parents or with your siblings. The truth is that we expect life to be easier than it is. We keep hoping that life will become easy one of these days. But life is hard. Life is good. It's so good. But it is bona fide hard. Even in the happy moments, like holidays and vacations, unless you go to Disneyland, they are filled with trouble and tension. Remember a few minutes ago when I had you dump all your troubles and burdens and worries on the ground? There were a lot. I could hear them. I could hear them in my heart as they crashed to the ground. We are people who are waiting in darkness, looking for light. Hundreds of years before the first Christmas, which is much more than a few hundred years from now, a man named Isaiah wrote these words that I'm about to read as he was imagining what it would be like if God came and lived with us. Let me read you these words that were written 3,000 years ago. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. For to us a child is born, and to us a son is given, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. After Jesus was born on that first Christmas, a man named John wrote, declaring that Jesus was the light that everyone had been waiting for. That Jesus was the child sent to bring peace and hope everlasting. That his birth was the light breaking into the darkness. Here's what John wrote. In Jesus was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The true light that gives light to everything and everyone is coming into the world. And I am here tonight to tell you that even though we are surrounded by darkness, darkness outside, darkness inside, that darkness does not win. God has come to be with us. Jesus is the light of the world. And God is right here. Right here. This doesn't mean that everything is shiny and happy. Doesn't mean that everything is perfect and pretty. And you don't need to pretend that it is. Both of these things can be true. We can be hurting and troubled and even close to despair while also hanging on to hope because we know that God is right here and the darkness has not won. It means that in the darkest night we have hope. We have God's presence right here. Let me read to you again these words from John, who begins his book not describing a birth scene of a baby, but with a poem about light. In Jesus was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. The true light that gives light to everyone was coming into the world. That's some good news, right, ladies? That is good news. Now, while John was waxing poetic about light coming into darkness, there's another writer named Luke, and he wrote his book by adding in some nitty-gritty details, at least some of the gritty details. And that's where I want us to look next. What did it look like in the lives of real people when the light began to come into the darkness? In Luke chapter 1, verse 26, we find a young woman named Mary. She's at home. She's doing the everyday, normal things that she did every day. And then an angel approached her, a messenger from God named Gabriel, and he said, "Greetings, the Lord is with you." Can you imagine? Just take a minute and imagine, okay? She was washing clothes, or she was sweeping the floor, she was cooking, and there's a person standing in front of her saying, "God is with you," which granted is what I'm doing right now, but you knew I was coming. And I'm not an angel. I already told you I'm not magical. This would be the shock of my life. But Gabriel has only gotten started. There is so much more shock still to come. He goes on to tell Mary that even though she is a virgin, she is about to conceive a baby, and the child in her womb will be the Son of God. And that is how God's light first sparks into the darkness. And that is where the preparations for Christmas began. Then the angel continued. How many layers of shock can we have in one story, right? There's an angel there during dishes time. She tells her she's going to be pregnant. She tells her that the child is the Son of God. I'm going to read this part straight from the Bible because otherwise you're going to think I'm making it up. You will conceive and give birth to a son, and you will call him Jesus. He will be great. He will be the Son of the Most High. The Lord God will give him the throne of his father David, and he will reign over Jacob's descendants forever. His kingdom will never end. How will this be, Mary asked the angel, since I'm a virgin? The angel answered, the Holy Spirit will come on you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. So the Holy One to be born will be called the Son of God. Can you imagine a more startling day than this day? This is the most unexpected of surprise pregnancies. I could just end right now, and we could spend the rest of the night imagining what sort of shocked emotions were coursing through Mary's head and her heart, because we believe she was a real woman, right? We believe this actually happened. But there's one more piece to this unbelievable, miraculous message, and this is the shock that surprises me right now more than anything and touches me. The last thing the angel says to Mary is this. Mary has a relative named Elizabeth, and she has been infertile her entire life. She's now past menopause. She's too old to conceive and carry and birth a baby. But she's also pregnant. She is 6 months along already. And this isn't the part of the story that we normally include in our nativity scenes and our Christmas pageants. But in these words from the angel, I hear so much about God and God's character and God's compassion for us and God's love for women. And also, Elizabeth, your relative, is going to have a child in her old age, and she who is said to be unable to conceive is in her 6th month. Hear this. Mary has been given news that literally no one will be able to believe. But in the same breath, God provides her with a friend, a partner, someone to walk alongside her and help her carry it all. Have you ever stopped to think what a perfect partner, what a perfect friend and sister Elizabeth is for Mary? They're already related. She's older, so she'll be able to provide counsel, friendship, and support. But most of all, and this is God's gracious compassion and provision, Elizabeth will believe Mary's absolutely unbelievable story because she herself is already caught up in the middle of it. Elizabeth has already spent 6 months struggling through the highs and lows of an advanced maternal age pregnancy, but more than that, a miraculous pregnancy. Think about this for a minute. Mary was a virgin, absolutely incapable of conceiving a child, and yet she's pregnant. Elizabeth and her husband have been infertile their entire lives. Now Elizabeth is past the age, and she too is pregnant, 6 months along. In Elizabeth, Mary has someone who can truly and totally believe her incredible, unbelievable story. So, with this news, the angel leaves. Mary is left alone, and if she's anything like me, her mind is spinning with anxieties and questions. Can you even imagine what she's thinking? I would be beside myself. What should I do now? Who can I possibly tell? What happens now? But God has already provided the next steps and the answers. From that first moment, Mary doesn't have to do any of this alone. She has a next step. Go and visit her friend. Elizabeth will understand. Elizabeth will believe her and stand by her. Elizabeth will have work for her to do. They can support each other. And so, as Luke tells us in the next verse, Mary got ready and hurried to visit Elizabeth. I bet she hurried. This journey was probably about 100 miles, and Mary did not have a car. It would have been a long and difficult trip, especially for someone who is apparently newly pregnant, but she went. You can sense how deeply Mary needs to be with Elizabeth, and right away. But if this story has not been incredible up until now, listen to what happens next. When Elizabeth sees Mary, she already knows. Can you imagine? She already knows. I wonder if an angel visited her, let her in on the news to prepare her. It's not recorded, but it's possible. As soon as Mary waves and yells hello, the baby in Elizabeth's womb jumps for joy. And Elizabeth shouts, "Why am I so honored that the mother of my Lord should visit me? When I heard your greeting, the baby in my womb jumped for joy." Can you imagine what a relief this was for Mary? What a burden fell onto the ground from her shoulders? What a gift this was. What a light in the darkness. Both Elizabeth and even her unborn baby knew. They believed her. Even before God gave Mary the task of bringing this light into the world, he provided someone to walk alongside her, an older sister who would see her, who would understand. No wonder Mary got ready in a hurry. As they waited in the darkness for God's light to come, as they prepared for that first Christmas, they had each other. As soon as Elizabeth shouted her greeting, God's light filled Mary, and she burst into song. It's a long and a wonderful song, full of God's gospel truth, but I'm going to read you just a tiny bit of it. Oh, how my soul praises the Lord, how my spirit rejoices in God my Savior, for he took notice of me. The Mighty One is holy, and he has done great things for me. He shows mercy from generation to generation, and he has remembered to be merciful. God has remembered to be merciful. Then Luke tells us Mary stayed with Elizabeth for 3 months before returning home. 3 months was how long Elizabeth had in her pregnancy, so I imagine Mary stayed and helped with the birth and those early newborn days. Think how badly these two women needed each other. Mary could help Elizabeth with the pain and the burden of her last trimester, the birth, the exhausting days of healing while caring for a newborn. Elizabeth could give Mary a place away from all the prying, judgmental eyes and questions, a place to settle into her new reality as an unwed mother and the mother of God. This was their time of preparation, of uncertainty, of long waiting in darkness. But they were not alone. They were together. Just as Mary said in her song, God did not forget her. God did not forget to be merciful to her. Do you get the weight of that, you guys? Not only was God providing a light for the entire world in Jesus, but he had Mary's needs so specifically in mind that he had prepared support for her before her baby Jesus was even in her womb. That tells me something about God. That tells me that God is not far away, that God is not too strict or too stern or too angry to care about what our hearts are feeling, that God is a friend, but better than any friend, that God is a parent, a father, but better than any father. God is here. God knows what we need. God cares about the little things like, will anybody even listen to my story? Today, tonight, we are certainly not in Mary's shoes or Elizabeth's shoes. No one ever will be. But we too live in a world of darkness, real physical darkness, waiting for the light to come back in the world. We have a lot of days of getting darker before we get to the light again. But also that darkness inside of ourselves, our grief, our suffering, our hurts, our fears. We are waiting for a glimpse of hope, for things to be right again, and it feels like a long time coming. We need to know that God has not forgotten us, that we are not alone. We need to remember that God's heart is merciful to us as a group, and to us as individual women. Here's what I want you to hear me say this evening. I know how these things are. Someday in the future, you'll be like, remember that night we had a Christmas party and there was that lady, I think she was from Chicago. I don't really remember what she said. That's how it is. I understand that. But here is what I want you to hear, and I want you to tuck it away, and I want you to remember it. God has not forgotten you. God has not forgotten to be merciful to you. God sent his son, Jesus, into our world with all of our trouble and our pain to save us from the darkness. It is through knowing Jesus that God's light begins to shine in our darkness. God has not forgotten you. And just as Mary and Elizabeth were not alone to carry the burden that first Christmas, we don't have to find Jesus alone either. God has invited us together. That's why we're here. This room is packed. He has given us each other. Have you ever sat with a friend over coffee or lunch and poured out your anxieties and your griefs and your doubts and really been honest? And then did you find that the burden was just a little bit lighter? The troubles are still there. but now you don't have to carry them alone. And I want to confess to you tonight, this is hard for me. The darker my valley, the heavier my burden, the more I want to hide it, the more I want to keep it private and close to my own heart. Somehow I secretly believe this will keep me safe. But it doesn't. It won't. Holding our struggles and our secrets to ourselves only makes us isolated. It makes the burdens heavier and harder to carry. It makes it more likely that we're going to fall along the side of the road. I haven't known this about myself all along, but this year I have had no choice but to see it clearly for the damaging and detrimental problem that it is. I see how much I resist hurriedly traveling to Elizabeth's house. Or if I do go, I go to serve her and care for her, and I never quite get around to opening my heart and telling my own news, to let her hear my heart-wrenching, life-changing, unbelievable story. But what if Mary had done this? What if she didn't find the courage to trust Elizabeth? What if the two women spent their time casually chatting about clothes or the weather, and they didn't open up a space for God's Spirit to transform both of them? And through them, through their bodies and their friendship, to transform the entire world. I bet Mary would have thought, like I often do, that she was actually making the better choice, that she was serving her friend, that she wasn't making it about herself. But in fact, it was when the two women came together and showed each other the truth of who they were, that they were able to truly carry each other. Now, as I look around this room tonight, on this very first day of December, at the very, very beginning of Christmas, when there is still so much darkness and there is so much work still to do, I am confident that the true light that gives light to everyone has come into the world, has come right here, right into this room. And tonight, when you're in your cars, the light of the world is in the car with you. And when you get to your homes, no matter what you have waiting for you there, the light of the world is there in your house. I am confident that Jesus wants to bring this light right into your life. So tonight, as you head back out into the darkness of this December night, as you wait and prepare for Christmas, I invite you to accept these two gifts from me. First, every afternoon when you walk into the blanket of darkness and you are shocked that it has come around so early in the day, I want you to know for sure the light is coming back. The light of Jesus has come into the world, and while it may feel like just one tiny flickering candle right now, the darkness has not overcome it, and the darkness will never overcome it. So my invitation is this. During this season when we cannot help but remember how dark darkness is, let that constant reminder be a reminder to you that God is light, and in him there is no darkness at all. And all those things that you left on the floor earlier tonight, your fear, your shame, your secrets, your struggles, God knows them all, and God has not forgotten you. In the midst of your pain and doubt and suffering and trouble, God is present. I've said that so many times. You're probably starting to think I'm a broken record, but it's the one thing I want you to know so badly. God longs to be with you, as close to him as your own breath. Will you let him? Will you let his light into your life tonight? God has not forgotten to be merciful. God's light is shining, and he will be victorious. And the second gift I want you to remember, as you receive the gift of God, his light in the darkness, remember this. God's light is not for you and you and you. It is for us. It is, as they say in the South, for y'all. And I am so not from the South, I can't even say that right. But I think this is really important. I'm so glad you're still listening. We use the word you, and you can't tell, like, do I mean you or do I mean you? But God means you. God is here with all of us. If you are coming to God for the first time tonight, I have good news for you. And if you have been walking with God for years and years, I have good news for you too. None of us need to come to Jesus alone. That's the good news. Our relationship with Jesus comes prepackaged with an entire community to help you along. And you can see some of that happening right here in this room tonight. I loved going out and watching you guys chat over your appetizers, and I know in a few minutes you're going to be chatting over coffee and desserts. Friends, I am learning this too. Like I've already shared, this year has broken me open, and I am learning to let God bring sisters into my life and to be honest with them, not just offer to carry their burdens, but ask them to carry my burdens too. So receive the gift of each other. In the coming weeks, commit to being present for each other. Some of you are like me, and you will need to be very, very brave. Some of you are extroverts, and you have been waiting for this, and it is your time to shine. Call or text each other, meet for coffee, come to church on Sunday, and if that feels overwhelming, ask one of the ladies here if you could ride together, or maybe meet somewhere in advance so you can sit together. Bring someone a meal. Let somebody bring you a meal. Tell someone the truth about how you are really doing, how your marriage actually is, how your job or your dreams or your children or your bank account or your heart. And be trustworthy. Friends, we have to be trustworthy. Hold these precious truths for each other. Shine God's light in this church, in this community, in this room. You don't have to do any of this by yourself. In closing, I want to read to you a verse to a song that I've been playing on repeat the last few weeks during this season of darkness. You're probably familiar with it. It's called King of Kings, and it is not a Christmas song. It is not even an Advent song, but I personally play it every year during this time when the darkness feels unrelenting. After I read you these words, I'm going to pray, and I want you to pray with me. I'll start out in silence, and then in a few minutes, I'll begin to pray out loud. And if you have not started a relationship with God, I want you to consider if today is the day to do that. And if you have already been following Jesus for a long time, I invite you to spend this time being honest with God about where you're really at today in these days of darkness and waiting and working and preparing. Use this prayer time to invite God into your darkness today, right now, because he's already here. He's ready. All right, here we go. In the darkness, we were waiting, without hope, without light, till from heaven you came running. There was mercy in your eyes. To fulfill the law and prophets, to a virgin came the word. From a throne of endless glory to a cradle in the dirt. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, 3 in 1. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. God, you are here tonight. You are right here. We don't need to do any kind of magical preparations for you to come because you were here long before we were even born. You have been waiting for us. We don't need to behave in a certain way so that you will smile on us. Your smile has always been there. Your light has always been here, and the darkness cannot overcome it. God, you are here in this room tonight, closer than our breath, but we can't see you, and we need to be reminded that you are here. Thank you for those moments like tonight where you remind us. And even though we can't see you, we can see each other. Thank you that when Mary needed to see you to believe that you would carry her through this, she could see you in her sister Elizabeth. Thank you that when Elizabeth needed help, she could see you in Mary. God, teach us to see you in each other's faces. God, we need you to be the light in our darkness. We praise you forever for coming to be with us. You have not forgotten to be merciful. Your light shines in the darkness, and the darkness will never overcome it. Ladies, if you want to pray more, there are going to be prayer ministers, I think, over here by this table with a candle. They'll be there while we're having dessert, and you can go then. I think they will be there also when we're done for the evening. And I know they're ready, very ready to talk with you, to pray with you about anything, whether you want help coming to Jesus for the first time or whether you've been walking with Jesus your whole life and you just need a hand. Thank you for inviting me to your party. Merry Christmas.